Ted, a lot of news. Was it today or yesterday? But I noticed it today. A lot of news in the newspaper about Marcus Rushford. So anyone who's not in the UK and maybe not a football fan, Marcus Rushford is a player in Manchester United, and he also plays for the England team. He's about 23 years old. And he was the one that really pushed extending, free meals for school children, those who are eligible, into the summer period, particularly last year, right? Because of the COVID pandemic and the effect that it's going to have on young children from underprivileged backgrounds. And in fact, Marcus actually came from an underprivileged background. He and that's why he's so passionate about it. But there's an article about him saying that there's a company who's supposed to be supplying these meals, and he says that the quality of what they're producing is, in his words, unacceptable. And the company turned out to be Chartwells, right, Ted?
That's absolutely right. So let's just share the screen so we can sort of see some of this, the visual aspect of what we're talking about. Please. So we're talking about Chartwells. You're absolutely right. Who are, specialize in what they say, serving up happy and healthy meals. Let's pull up one of the articles. So here is Marcus Rashford himself. This is with his mother, and this is from the Times, but it's all over every single newspaper. It's all over the media, on social media. And essentially what's happening is that the government, people have been given £30 vouchers, and Chartwells are supplying these £30 worth of food. And on the right hand side, you can see is what £30 will buy you in Asda. And on the left hand side is what gets delivered to you by Chartwells if you're in possession of one of these vouchers. Now, if you look carefully, Moeed, I think you might be able to notice a very, very slight difference between the two.
Yeah, that is a huge, huge difference. I mean, on the left-hand side, that looks like what, £6-7? What do they calculate it as?
I think they say you can get it for £5.50 in Asda, Moeed.
Wow, so there's £24.50 going somewhere.
That just seems to be unaccounted for. You're absolutely right. Well, and there's a long sort of article. This is another interesting one. So this was posted by Marcus Rashford on his social media, and this contains a hamper meant to contain 3 days worth of food for one family. I mean, it kind of it beggars belief. It really does. I don't think, I mean, I have a family of, well, I have 5 kids, Moeed, so my food bill is absolutely, it makes me cry every evening. But there's no way that you're going to actually get a decent meal that allows you to study with that amount of food.
And is that £30 per family or per child?
Well, this is actually for the actual the quantity of food. This is the £30 per. You know what? I don't actually know. It's a voucher system, so I'm not familiar exactly how it works. But I think this is per child for a week. I think that's what they're expected to last them for a week. I'd struggle for any child to survive on that for a week.
Yeah, that just looks way too low.
Now, Moeed, when something like this comes to my attention, everybody's looking at the company and who's responsible and the kind of the political angle. But unfortunately, it's my accountancy kind of tendencies. I've really struggled, and my first thing is, let's go and look at Chartwells. Let's go and look at the company that's actually behind it. And this is Chartwells Independent. This is their website. And I'm interested to know who they are. So I go and have a look at meet their team. And here are some of the people from Chartwells. We've got Noella Jones, who's the managing director. But I really want to know the name of the company, because I want to go and dig around and have a look at their financials. Now, it's very difficult to find out who the company is. So I go down the bottom. It's Chartwells Independent, but there isn't a Chartwells Independent Limited company. I can't find one. But what I can do is, if I look in something like the terms and conditions,
yes,
it's by Compass Group. I'm like, okay, so Compass Group UK and Ireland Limited. Okay, so this is the company that kind of dictates the terms and conditions. It's obviously, Chartwells is a brand of Compass Group. Okay, so that's our first clue. I then go to company's house and I find, oh, well, there is a Chartwells Limited. So
Right.
let's go and have a look at Chartwells Limited. And Chartwells Limited, if we look at the accounts, and all we got to do is to click on here, and we find we look at the filing history and at the accounts. What we find is that we're actually looking at a dormant company. Okay, so Chartwells Limited is dormant. It doesn't trade.
Oh, wow.
So if you're a company and you don't trade, you still have to file your account. That's part of the legal, but it doesn't actually trade. So we can have a look at the PDF. Okay, and I've got it on my next tab. So here is Chartwells Limited. You notice the directors, the named directors, are nothing to do with our original directors. So when we looked at these guys, none of these guys are named as actual board directors. So this is an important distinction. Are we dealing with a director who's actually a director or just a name, like a name director? So you could call yourself director, doesn't make you a legal director, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And what we notice here also is that the immediate holding company is Compass Contract Services Limited. So let's go and have a look at Compass Contract Services Limited.
Finances, are we?
Absolutely. So once again, very easy. We're back on company's house. We search for the name, we find it, we click on the accounts, and what do we find? We find another dormant company.
God, no.
So the dormant company is owned by another dormant company. You'll notice that the directors are the same. It's exactly the same people.
Yeah.
And the immediate holding company of this company is Compass Group UK and Ireland Limited. So
surely we're going to find finances this time.
We're not going to be put off yet. So here we go. We go and have a look, and we find a set of accounts. So I'm feeling really pleased with myself at this point, Moeed. We'll have a quick run through. Lots of directors. Suddenly, lots of directors have all popped out. So quite where they all came from, I'm not sure. But
a lot of them
there's
resigned,
a few.
right?
Lots have resigned, lots have been appointed. There's a few who are similar. So you'll notice, for example, Jodie Lee, for example, is also a director. So you can start to see there's a bit of continuity here. But I want to really get into the income statement. So I'm just going to whiz down through the accounts to the first set of accounts, and here we go. And the turnover is 0.
What?
So something's going on here. So basically, these guys, they've got admin expenses that they're putting through the company, but they're not making any sales through the company. Now they've got to be making sales somewhere, because somebody somewhere is getting 30 quid for all of that package. So I'm not going to be and this is fine. People do set up companies just to run costs through. That's sometimes that's part of a kind of the financial structure of a group of companies.
Right.
So I'm going to whiz down to the bottom, and I'm going to find out. So these notes usually appear right at the very bottom of the accounts, Moeed.
Yeah.
And we find that the immediate parent is Compass Group Holdings Limited. So we're going to go and have a look at their accounts. Here we have Compass Group. So here we have Compass Group Holdings PLC. So let's go and have a look at their accounts. And again, we want to look at the income statement. And what do we find? We find turnover.
Okay.
So turnover, £425 million or £426 million, and the operating expenses, so that's the cost of running the business, rent, rate, light, heat, salaries, marketing, HR, operations, and the food that they're selling is only 122.
Right.
So basically that's a bit like, they're buying for £5 and selling for £20, for example. So I'm sitting there feeling quite pleased, as you probably are right now, Moeed, thinking, aha, smoking gun, we've got them.
Just a quick
question. And if only
for,
life was that easy.
Just a quick question.
Sorry, Moeed?
Because normally you would have cost of goods sold separate, but is that a legal requirement to do that? Because we don't see that here.
It's a general requirement. I mean, a lot of companies don't do it, and they usually do it for a particular reason. So if you were to look at, for example, National Grid. So National Grid, their costs are running a network rather than buying and selling gas. They just transport it. So they don't really have a cost of sales, and therefore they don't include it in their accounts. So companies for which cost of sales is not relevant tend not to include that line. But you're absolutely right. I would expect to see a cost of sales in here. So
So that
you
might
can get
mean
away, if you can
that,
justify excluding it, it's not illegal effectively. So you can still get it past the auditors.
that
Now,
could mean that there is more to this revenue than just selling
well,
those food
yeah,
boxes.
so we're given a note, and whenever we're given a note, we
Right.
kind of need to go and dig in a little bit and have a look at what that note is. So let's go and look at the note 2. So we scroll down very, very quickly, and it's pretty easy to find. Here it comes. So note 2, and it tells us that the turnover is from advice and consultancy services.
Huh.
So this is not the smoking gun we were looking for. So what we've got here is that this company, the only sales being booked through this company is actual advice and consultancy, not the purchase and consolidation and sending out of food parcels. So we carry on our trip, and we're going to go and look at their parent company.
Yeah.
So again, I scroll down to the bottom. Now, what we suddenly find with this company is it owns a lot of companies. So what I'm doing is I'm slowly scrolling through all of the companies that this one owns. And you can, I mean, you know, you've got companies all over the world which are owned by this company. This is very much a holding company. Look at all of them through Canada, Australia. I mean, they're everywhere. USA,
There as well.
more in USA, UK. So there's a lot of, I mean, you know, there are a lot of companies here. So I'm just scrolling up to try and find the parent company. At some point we'll get there.
Wow, even Gabon was there.
Yeah, it's you know, it's mind-boggling how many they own. So here we go. So the ultimate parent company is Compass Group Plc, and
That's a recognizable
basically they're saying this is directly held by Compass Group Plc.
Yeah, well, that's a name.
So,
That's a name that I certainly recognize.
absolutely. So they supply food to the airlines, for example. You know, they're all over the place. You know, and yeah, and they're a big company. So, and they're a listed company. So the accounts are easily available, and they're on the next tab. So here they are, and we see that the revenue is £24.9 billion. And the operating costs, which includes the cost of sales, as you rightly pointed out, is £23.3 billion. They're making a profit of £1.6 billion. Now, £1.6 billion as a figure is a very big number, but as a proportion of the £24.9 billion, well, it's about 6%. So it's not a massive margin running a business at a 6% operating margin.
Wow.
So unfortunately, the conclusion is that we can't see these numbers that Marcus Rashford is referring to in the accounts because it's all lumped in with literally hundreds of other companies around the world. And we can't actually see the specifics of Chartwell itself, which is a real shame.
That's a real shame because we could have uncovered, or at least we tried to uncover some information behind the news. But that is still a small number, 6%. I mean, I'm trying to recall if that's even typical for an outsourced food services business. I know they've been.
It's a competitive business, and typically it will. I mean, supermarkets will be operating on the same sort of margins. People like Coca-Cola, they can operate on operating margins of 30%. And the reason is that they got a really good brand, and so they can command a higher a price. Whereas, you know, food is very much a commoditized option. And if the food is too expensive at Sainsbury's, then we'll go to Tesco, for example. So it's very, very competitive. So it is a low margin business. It's a volume game. These guys are achieving the volume. The problem is when they do something like that, they end up in the news and it damages their brand and they get it in the neck.
Yeah, and we can make some sort of educated speculation here because a company that massive, I mean, that is huge. Surely they have a significant amount of purchasing power. So if they're going to be buying this food from wholesalers, you would assume that they can get it at a much better rate than, say, other companies. And therefore, they should, technically, and this is just my opinion, they should have more in each of these boxes than what they're delivering right now, wouldn't you say?
Possibly, although
That's a speculation,
this is
but I'm just having an
but this
educated.
is a for-profit company, and so they will have won the contract, and they bid competitively for contracts, and they win contracts because they're able to pass on that cost saving. So
Yes,
what they're able to do is to say, rather than the fact that we can buy more, what they will do in their contracts is to say that, if you speak to Fred, Fred Wholesale Vegetables, he'd be able to fill a box for, £35. We can do it for £30. And effectively
mm,
that's their pitch. So you're absolutely right that they use their muscle power, but they use their muscle power to undercut the competitors and therefore win the bids. But it doesn't distract from the fact that these guys, if you can go into the supermarket and buy £30 worth of food on the right, you should not be getting what you see on the left actually arriving through. That is definitely not acceptable. So I would say they should definitely be able to at least match, and if not increase, what you see
agreed.
on the right. Don't forget, there's a bit of admin. They've got to package it up. They've got to buy it. They've got to get it to the individuals, etc., etc. So there are additional costs sitting around, and nobody would forego the opportunity for a company to actually cover its costs and to make a reasonable profit.
Yeah, agreed. Well, sorry, Marcus, we tried to dig in and find out, but it seems on this one we haven't been able to because it's all rolled into the group business.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So it's a shame that I was really hoping that we could find that smoking gun, but they've hidden it. They're running everything through the head office. They're not running anything through what is effectively a dormant UK company. And this is interesting. Then, if ever you're dealing with a company, make sure you know the legal entity that you're dealing with as well as the brand that you're dealing with, because the brand doesn't really Chartwells as a brand is just that. It's a pretty picture. It's a logo. Okay. What the government is dealing with is they're dealing with Compass Group. They're not dealing with Chartwells Limited or Chartwells Independent.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? We have been able to show our viewers something interesting there, which is if you can't find numbers, we've just showed you how to look and dig and investigate so that you can find at least some numbers and get some picture rather than nothing. So I thought that was really worthwhile.
Absolutely. So always look for the parent company. Who owns this company? Who owns this company? Keep on working up until you find them at the kind of the consolidated level.
Yeah, no, a great catch here, Ted, and still very, very useful. And I'm looking forward to the comments from our viewers on this one because this one's definitely a hot topic in the UK right now.
Excellent. Okay, good to speak to you, Moeed.
Take care, Ted. Thank you.